Hey everybody, what is going on? I am not a happy camper right now. I'm actually kind of upset because, well, I just got pulled over by the CHP for speeding, and they issued me a citation, and so I'm pretty pissed about that right now. And yeah, they pulled me over in the BRZ, said that I was speeding, and showed me the radar gun, and they actually said that I was going, perhaps it's a sign from the heavens, but I was going 86 miles per hour, they said, according to the radar gun, in an area that was posted with a speed limit of 50 miles per hour. So yeah, that's more than 30 miles an hour, more than 35 miles an hour over the speed limit. And so yeah, I'm pretty annoyed right now. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of, what was happening during the time that I got pulled over, because I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about this ticket yet. I may fight it. This might be an opportunity for me to check out this service. I'm sure some of you have heard of this service as well. Off the Record is one of these apps and websites where they connect you to a traffic attorney, who can, they claim, over 90% of the time will get you, get your case dismissed, get your ticket dismissed, or somehow reduce the fines on your ticket, and avoid getting points on your license, which of course would affect your insurance rates. So I'm really thinking about fighting this ticket. Like I said, though, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, so I'm not going to talk too much about the specific details. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't get into the specifics too much, but basically the cop pulled me over. Didn't really ask me too many questions, but basically, did the usual thing. Took my driver's license and registration, proof of insurance, said I'll be right back. Went, back to his police car, and a few minutes later came back with a ticket and had me sign it. Oh, there is one thing, and this wasn't until after I got home and I was looking a little more closely at the speeding ticket, but under race ethnicity, he wrote an O, which I don't know for sure what that means. I don't think that means other, but it could mean Oriental, which, on a basic level kind of is offensive to Asians like me. I think Asian American is the appropriate term, or Asian, if you're going to say, okay, somebody is of Asian descent. In fact, I believe a law was passed not that long ago, maybe in 2016 or so, where President Obama actually banned the use of the term Oriental by the federal government in terms of classifying people of a certain ethnicity or race. So it's kind of shocking to me if it is in fact the case that this police officer or this CHP officer is noting me down as being Oriental on this ticket. I'm kind of flabbergasted, honestly. Why couldn't he have written A for Asian, or even, fully written out a word? But, maybe I don't want to presume too much. I don't know. Are there any other Asian people here watching that have been pulled over recently and maybe got a speeding ticket, or some sort of traffic citation? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments below if your race or ethnicity was written down as O, or Oriental in your ticket. And likewise, I guess, I'm just actually curious if you happen to be a police officer, or if you know the protocols or the training or the process that's involved here. What are you supposed to write down in that section on the form? I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. Is this normal? Is this acceptable? Is this common practice for police officers and highway patrol to write down that, to identify Asians or Asian Americans as Orientals on citations? I just don't know. So to back up for a little bit, for those of you who may not be aware, and I understand that not everybody is aware of this, but the term Oriental has over time become a derogatory and offensive way to describe Asian people. And you may not know that, but it is, for better or worse, it is part of the political correctness or cultural sensitivity that has grown over the years. I think growing up, my parents used the term Oriental to describe themselves. I think older generations definitely do that. Having minored in Asian American studies myself, I understand that it has become a derogatory term over time. There's I'm probably not going to be able to explain it all that well compared to certain racial and ethnic studies scholars, but the term Oriental is associated with sort of a period of colonialism, of Western dominance over sort of global affairs, and over time it's kind of come to represent this otherness, right? This sort of differentiation between those in the West and those in the East, and with clearly this undertone of superiority or normalcy associated with Western culture. There has become over time a certain cultural and social significance to that term. An example of that is that, I think in maybe the 50s, 60s, and 70s even, it was commonplace to refer to African Americans or Black people as Negroes, right? But now you would never call anybody a Negro. That would be incredibly offensive to that person, right? You wouldn't even think of using that. And that's because the social norms have changed, right? People understand that that term was used during, colonialism, during slavery, and during Jim Crow era and the times of racial discrimination, oppression, just all those things, right? And so there is a certain connotation, there's a certain meaning associated with those words, even if on the face of them, the words do not appear to be offensive. And so, I don't want to make too much of a big deal out of it. I feel like maybe I already have because I've spent so much time talking about this. But it, to some degree, it kind of irks me because, here I am. I got pulled over by the police. He comes over to my window. He looks in the window at me. And what's the first thing that he's doing? He's probably just sizing me up, right? He's looking to see who he's dealing with, right? And it's probably, I could just imagine it running through his head. He's like, okay, it's a male, Asian male, but in this case, he writes, oh, right? What is that? I don't know. Maybe there's a code. Maybe there's, some sort of legend or code that translates, O equals Asian, and there's some sort of legacy or policy reason for that. I just don't know. But, I just imagine him coming over and sizing me up and going, okay, male, Asian, about, certain size, certain height and build, estimating, the weight. Now, of course, some of this information he's going to be able to grab off of my driver's license once he gets that, right? So you can see, okay, he has black hair, he has brown eyes, certain height and weight. That kind of information he can pull off of my driver's license. But it doesn't say what my race or ethnicity is on my driver's license, right? So he has to make that determination because apparently he took the time to fill it out on this citation. And in his mind, He looked at me and said, he's an O. I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means specifically, but what I fear and suspect is that he classified me as an Oriental. And I don't know. Somebody set me straight. Somebody tell me that I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Listen, I don't want to say necessarily that like, oh, I feel like I was maybe racially targeted, at least not initially, right? Like, I I was pulled over because he says I was speeding. Now, maybe he saw my car, and if you've seen my car does look a little bit on the racer or ricer side of the spectrum. It's bright blue. It's got some window stickers on it. I've got the black vented hood. It is a supercharged car with an exhaust. So, maybe that's what it was. Maybe he heard or saw the car coming and said, oh, I better pay close attention to this guy. But at the same time, I do have to wonder, given how he wrote O or Oriental on the citation, and that was an assessment that he had to make when he walked up to confront me in the first instance, right? He's, like I said, sizing me up, saying, okay, who is this that I'm dealing with? It's a male. He looks Asian or Oriental, apparently. A certain height and build. Is he a threat? No, he seems peaceful. He doesn't seem like he's, belligerent or aggressive or anything like that. Okay, looks like it's probably going to be a routine traffic stop with this gentleman. He takes that information in his mind, and he takes my driver's license and my registration, and he goes back to his car. And I think that at that moment, that is when the officer has kind of a decision to make, right? He can pull up the driver's license on his computer. I assume that's what they typically do, just to see if, the person that they're pulling over has any, arrest warrants or priors or, anything significant that would make this turn into a much more serious stop than just a traffic or speeding violation. And at that point, I think once he sees that, okay, this person has a clear record, or there's nothing unusual about this guy, then he kind of has to make a decision, I think, right? He has this discretion to say, do I issue this person a ticket, or do I give them a warning and let them go? Or maybe something in between. I don't know. I don't know exactly what goes on in the minds of an officer in that situation. But, could it possibly have been a factor that, he comes over, he sees, oh, it's this Asian guy, and he's driving this, souped up looking, rice rocket sports car, bright blue, has got stickers on the windows, looks modified. At that point, does he make some kind of determination in one direction or the other about whether or not to issue the citation? I have to think that he does, so how much of any of these factors he weighs into that formula, into that equation, I don't know. But I do have to wonder whether there is a certain bias involved. So I don't know whether any of that has any bearing on this ticket, or his choice to give me a ticket. But I have to wonder. That's all I'm saying.
But anyway, it is upsetting that I got this ticket. Again, I said it's a ticket for 86 miles per hour in a 50 mile per hour zone. So I expect that there will be substantial fees associated with this ticket. Off the top of my head, I believe it probably will be somewhere in the neighborhood of over $400, just based on, unfortunately, past experience and some knowledge of speeding laws and traffic laws. But again, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do about this yet. I may fight it. and I may use off the record as a way to get in touch with a traffic attorney who can then, represent me, fight this ticket on my behalf, and hopefully get this ticket dismissed. So we'll see how that goes, and I will try and keep you up to date on what's happening with this, because I think it's kind of interesting to see if this off the record app really works for people, if it actually gets the results that they promise. I'm kind of curious to find that out myself, and I think that probably many of you are curious as well. Certainly, you may see the ads for these guys, and know that no, I am not sponsored by anybody. I would be paying the costs of this out of my own pocket. I'm just like everybody else. I'm trying to get this ticket dismissed, at least reduce the fines if I am found guilty. So, and also, potentially attend traffic school if it means that that's how I can avoid getting points on my license and increased insurance rates.
Now, I'm sure some of you may be saying, look, you need to sort of man up and face the consequences of your own actions, right? Some people are going to say, like, look, just ask yourself, were you speeding? If you were and they caught you, then fair and square, you got busted. You just got to, man up and pay the ticket, pay the fines, do the traffic school, whatever is involved in, and even maybe take the point and take the hit on your insurance premiums if you were in fact speeding and essentially deserve the punishment, right? And I have to say, I don't see it that way. Know that I am trained as an attorney. I am actually licensed to practice law in the state of California. I went to law school, and in the last year of my law school, I actually spent some time working at the criminal defense clinic. I volunteered as a student attorney at the defense clinic that the Santa Clara University offers to the community. And it was there, I think, that I learned sort of some of the principles that I continue to hold near and dear to my heart today, which is that I believe that every person deserves justice, but that doesn't mean that every person who commits a crime deserves whatever punishment that the government automatically metes out to you, right? I think what that means is that every person is entitled to representation. Every person is entitled to defend themselves. And sometimes that may mean that, assuming theoretically that somebody is guilty, they're still entitled to be represented by an attorney and to make their case in front of the judge or the court, the system, whatever it may be. Not only are you being judged on, the merits of whether you are guilty or not guilty, but also does the punishment fit the crime, right? Every person that's confronted by the government, the system, the criminal justice system, deserves the justice in the sense that if the system wants to hand out the maximum penalty, you're entitled to present arguments, evidence against that, right? To say, look, I don't believe that this punishment fits the crime. I believe that this person deserves a second chance, or this person deserves a more lenient sentence or punishment, and so in the instance of a speeding ticket or a traffic violation, you could say, okay, well, this person was speeding or this person ran the stop sign, and yes, that's bad, but is it $1,000 fine bad? Or is it a $500 fine bad? Or is it a $300 fine bad, right? It's up to the judge, it's up to the system to sort of decide what punishment sort of fits the crime in this instance. I think we're all entitled to justice in the sense that if you just roll over and pay the fine, then the government's going to look at that statistically and say, well, 90% of people just pay the ticket. We must be doing everything right. Everything's by the book. We're just going to go ahead and keep charging people with these crimes, and we're going to keep charging them these high dollar amounts. And, I don't believe that that's necessarily fair or right. I think that it should fit the circumstances. And, if you ran the stop sign, but there were no other cars anywhere in sight around the intersection other than you and presumably the police officer who was sitting there watching all of this, was there any threat to life or property? Was anyone in danger? Apparently not, right? And so the fact that you maybe rolled through a stop sign without coming to a complete stop, maybe you even slowed down, right? Like it might be one of those situations where you came to almost a complete stop and you got to like 1 or 2 miles per hour, creeped along across the line. You were looking both ways, looking everywhere through the intersection, made sure that it was clear, and then you got back on the gas before you were at a complete stop. And boom, the police officer pulls you over because you have technically violated the law. You did not do a complete stop at that stop sign. Is that worthy of the full punishment of, whatever that fine would be if you had in fact, come up on an intersection full of cars, ran the stop sign, went through without stopping and actually had the risk of maybe hitting or injuring a pedestrian or another car, other traffic, those sort of things. I would say that those are potentially two different situations and deserve different levels of punishment. And so that's all I'll say about that. I mean, I could go on and on about that kind of thing, but hopefully you get my point here, which is that everyone's entitled to their day in court. Not everybody takes it. Some people just roll over and pay their fines and continue on with life. And I understand some people will say that that's what you should do. But I don't necessarily agree with that. And so that's why I'm considering fighting my ticket.
I guess that's enough ranting and raving about this for now. Stay tuned. I'll have more info for you hopefully soon. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.